Started. So thank you for joining this evening. We're sorry that we don't have a quorum to vote on the agenda items this evening, but as Kevin said, we'll kind of go over the rulings this evening and then we'll vote on it next month. So we always read a statement at the start of every meeting. The qualifications of the members of the commission, the staff of the commission, and any consultant used are on file with the town and are hereby made part of each and every application heard tonight. The guidelines and procedures adopted by the Commission are also made part of each and every application. Each application heard tonight is considered on its own merits and is not to be considered as establishing a precedent for any other application. The Historic District Design Guidelines have been adopted by the Town of Sykesville in accordance with Article 6B, 8.06a of the Maryland Code and follow the recommendations of the United States Secretary of the Interior. They, Sykesville Historic District Commission, follows Robert's Rules of Order with the exception that the chairperson votes. Okay, so on tonight's agenda, we can't vote on the minutes.
Yeah, we'll table
the minutes from 2024, October 23rd. The first application this evening is 2024-29, renovations to the west facade of 7611 Main Street.
All right, so I'll jump in. So obviously this property we've looked at before. But the applicant has submitted a new application to kind of make some changes to the previously approved application. So we're just treating it as its own standalone application this time. So the property owner here at 7611 Main Street has requested approval to complete the following changes to the exterior of the west-facing facade. So they'd like to replace the existing garage door with the double store front doors to match what's on the front facade of the building here. And then they'd like to build a porch landing with steps to access the new storefront doors. And this new structure will match the materials used on the existing landing and steps. It's on the western facing facade of the building, which is down towards the back there, sort of. So this structure was built in 1949 and is considered a non-contributing building in the historic district. The property owner is in the process of rehabbing the building to be used for retail, office, and residential purposes. And then the relevant information from HCC guidelines for each item. So regarding replacement of the garage door with the new storefront doors, for non-contributing buildings, any replacement doors should just be compatible with the overall character of the facade in which they are located. And then regarding the new wooden staircase and porch landing, the guidelines mention that when adding a new porch to a non-contributing building, it should be located on a side or rear facade and should be designed to be compatible with the overall character of the building. So in this case, it is going to be located on a side facade here. And again, it's going to match the materials. The existing porch there. So again, the HCC is being asked to determine if the requested alterations to 7611 Main Street are appropriate or suggest alternative actions. Considering the non-contributing status of the building, staff feels that all requested items are consistent with HCC guidelines and recommends approval. I included a suggested motion, but without the quorum, we can't actually vote on it tonight. But the applicant's here if you want to ask any questions or if you want to give feedback, and then I can speak with the applicant.
Do you mind scrolling up and showing me a picture of the facade with the stair and
the drawn image?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
okay.
So this image shows they sort of look different, but it's my understanding that the two landings are going to be the same materials. They're going to match.
Julie, correct me if I'm wrong, but this new door and entrance in here, is that the primary entrance into that suite then?
Which one?
The one we're adding.
No.
Okay, so I know last time you had talked about replacing it with a garage door, but we had issues with the. So our recommendation last time, as I remembered it, is that we said to replace it with a glass storefront that was non-operable. We just replicate the glass garage door, which was in place. So, is there a reason for the change of having access to that space?
Yes. And it's a classic case of I told you so. You
Okay.
should have listened to the recommendation of a storefront from the very beginning. What changed our opinion, the very back of the entrance was always the main entrance to the middle and back portion of the building, and it's why it was going to be made ADA accessible. But we realized that creating that glass door with that elevation from the ground and was going to make it a problem to open it safely, and then to open it we would have had to as we mentioned it together last time, add some kind of a railing that probably would not have been adopted by the HDC because it would not have been aesthetically pleasing, and the county was not a big fan of having a door to open to nowhere if it was not to be used smartly. So from all of those conversations together and adding the fact that there will be an independent business there, giving them the ability to have an access directly to that alleyways, which they intend to use quite heavily with some of their programming, since we own most of the alley, seem to be the options that were satisfying all of the conditions.
Okay. Questions, comments?
So the portions where it looks like there's the person in the wheelchair icon there, does that exist today?
Yes.
Okay.
The wheelchair
So-
lift does not exist, the staircase, the platform, and the access door that's not even on that
Yeah,
drawing
that's
all
right.
exists.
It's a little hard to see.
Yeah, I think it's behind. I was looking at that. That's
Yeah, so it's this
Yes.
this landing here, and then there's a access door right there as
Right
well.
there, yeah.
okay. And so you will be making that an accessible entry.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
And from that door, there's still a hallway that feed into that middle section that will also have its own storefronts. It's why we do not have to make that middle entrance ADA accessible, because the one that was meant to feed both bays will be ADA accessible.
So do you need to stair in the landing? In the new portion?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's not gonna be accessed?
It sounds like they're just gonna use it for accessing the alleyway. Their
Yes.
accessible entrance is gonna be where the wheelchair is shown with the door, but they're still gonna use that center door for accessing the alleyway for whatever capacity, loading goods or whatever.
Exactly.
With a rail there?
Well, it's gonna be a railing and stairs just like adjacent to it. The image on the right isn't shown correctly because there's a door missing, but the center one is what's proposed, where the garage door is.
That will allow the business owner there to have its own storefront too,
Okay.
for visibility and functionality.
I guess I'm confused by what looks like an iron rail in front of that.
So you have to have fall protection for the landing.
Yeah,
So that's a landing with stairs going down with a railing. So it's probably gonna be a 3-foot platform or whatever it does matches the other adjacent one. So it's just gonna be a porch really off of those doors with a railing.
And we have to follow county rule for the,
Ignore the one on the right, that's already in place.
yeah, I'm aware.
You understand it now?
Because it's not going to be like a loading bay for trucks or anything. It'll be access for them to get stuff in just by hand if need be.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was what I was struggling with.
Oh
When you
yeah.
say you're loading, I'm thinking, how are you gonna get over that rail?
Yeah. No, I think it's.
oh no, it's
It's-
just for people access.
And so the primary entrance for the business is gonna be at the left, is gonna be the other entrance?
Yes,
Yeah, the one over here.
and this one is already ADA accessible with a ramp and a correct railing that was
Right.
just refinished.
So how many tenants are gonna be downstairs? 2 or 3?
3 including us, including the DSC.
Well, you're gonna be up top though, aren't you?
We will eventually get there, but for now we will start with the bottom. Our goal is to move out of our small office with a horrible staircase, put those 2 tenants in, and then we will redevelop the top. But we have added the dormer with the goal of doing that, you're absolutely right. Because before we would not have allowed for much space due to the slope of the roof.
Yeah, the site plan that planning commission approved shows the DSC offices kind of down
Right.
on this end,
Yes.
and then, you know, business suite here and a business suite here.
And all of the other things we were suggested to do at our last application were already implemented. We did the 4/4 windows, and we were able to save the roof because where the damage was, actually we got lucky enough that it was exactly where we wanted to place the dormer, so there's no visible fastener whatsoever. The top roof is matching the rest, and we use the cement shingles that are on the front gable to do both sides of the dormers.
And you're gonna paint those downspouts and gutters, not white?
We want to go yellow like the rest of it.
Okay. All right, I have no
Yellow?
further. Well, we're not privy to color.
Oh, you've not seen it? The building is dark blue and the gable is light celestial blue. And we did all trims and windows yellow, it pops.
Do we have any historic color
I mean,
requirement
we
or?
don't,
Mhm.
we're not privy to color. We had suggested before that we'd have a palette that we'd circulate as suggestions, but we're not privy to, we can't rule on color. It's not in our guidelines.
Okay.
Okay, well, if there's no further questions, we can table that until next week's discussion, so. I don't think there's any questions or suggestions that we have, regardless of color.
Give it a chance, you should go check it out.
Well, the downstairs windows right now are colored yellow.
No, not the windows. The downspouts are going to be painted yellow.
Yeah, but I'm saying the two big windows have been all painted yellow in the last week.
Yeah, the trim of it.
Yeah.
It's a brown roof, blue building, yellow windows.
Oh, okay.
We need to paint the roof. Because the roof that was next to it, that was already there, the tenant roof, the residential, is like a dark gray. So the brown is not looking good, so we need to do something about that.
Okay.
So does the HCC have any glaring major issues or concerns with the new doors or the landing?
No.
Okay. I'll reach out to you tomorrow, Julie. We can talk about where to take it from here, because like I said, the HCC can't technically vote on it this month. But sounds like they, at least the folks here,
Yeah.
feel good about the application. So
Thank you.
that's
We'll
good.
continue with the inside for now.
All right, so the next application on the agenda this evening is 2024-30 for front porch repair and modifications at 7557 Main Street.
Yes. All right. So again, this applicant here. Oops, actually, let me pull up the. This is from the application, some other images, but this applicant has requested approval for the following items at their property located at 7557 Main Street. They wanted to repair the damaged mortar joints on the brick front porch and then install bluestone caps on the front porch steps to create a level surface and protect the underlying bricks. So this structure, it keeps popping up. This structure was built in approximately 1932 and is considered a contributing building in the historic district. And then applicable information for each requested item is as follows. So regarding the mortar repair, based on HCC guidelines, repairs to damaged mortar joints is considered routine maintenance and does not require approval from the Historic District Commission as long as the applicant intends to use materials that match the existing original structure. And then the bluestone caps, so this one it's a little bit more complicated. So page 68 of the HCC guidelines explains that certain modern coverings should not be applied to original porch masonry. It specifically mentions vinyl and metal coverings and also hardened concrete. So these are materials that would typically be used to mask either the entire porch or large sections of the porch. But the guidelines don't explicitly mention, anything about capping brick steps with a different sort of masonry material. So during a conversation with staff, the applicant was actually the applicant's son, TJ, who I spoke to. He explained that none of the existing brick on the porch is going to be removed in order to accommodate the new caps, and that the majority of the original brick will remain visible. Additionally, the caps will serve some practical purposes, including leveling out the steps for safety, as well as protecting and preserving the existing bricks into the future. So with that being said, again, HCC is being asked to determine if the addition of the bluestone caps on the existing brick steps is acceptable, or to offer alternative suggestions. Given that the majority of the original brick will remain visible, and with considerations to the safety and preservation components of the application, staff is comfortable with the requested modification. In this instance, I included two motions. One, if the HCC were to agree with that assessment, or another motion if the HCC wanted to present an alternative solution. Again, we're not going to move forward with the motions this evening, but we can at least have conversations and figure out what everyone's feeling. So these images here, this is just a more clear image from the application that the applicant provided, and then I included this one here as well, because I think it does a good job of illustrating that even with the caps, a lot of original brick is still visible from the side angles.
Do you mind bringing up the original photograph of the existing condition?
Yeah, so it's a little blurry, forgive me, but so this is what it currently, zoom in a little bit. So this is what it currently looks like. So definitely some damaged, brick mortar joints, and then the applicant explained to me, because it's not terribly clear in the picture, but the steps currently are sloping down, which can create a safety hazard.
So I have a couple questions. The flanking pillars on each side, the stringers, are they going to be recapped with bluestone as well?
Do you have an answer to that?
I can't answer that. My son's not here tonight and we didn't discuss that, but I would suggest that they are capped
Yeah,
and preserve what's,
because it looks like they're failing in the same
they
manner.
are.
Yeah, and I think I do remember in the conversation with TJ, her son, that I'm fairly certain he mentioned that those would be, they anticipate capping those as well.
The only other thing I see as being an architect is residential code is 711 for risers and treads.
Mm-hmm.
So if you add a 2-inch bluestone on top of that, it doesn't look as though, I'm just worried about the riser height for residential code, for international building code. If you add a cap on top, is it going to exceed the 7-inch dimension for a riser? So it doesn't look like it. It looks like they're very shallow steps.
Yeah.
So
2 bricks thick.
Yeah.
it looks like it. Yeah, sideways. Yeah. Comments? Suggestions?
I like the ones that you made. That's what I was thinking of. I wanted to see this picture. Is there a need for a railing on the other side from a code standpoint?
Just one thing.
Just one?
What about the top porch itself? That's not going to be reconditioned in any manner. It's covered, so I doubt it, right? That's probably concrete.
It's not brick.
Okay.
That's wood, I believe, right?
Is
Wood,
it?
I believe.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
looks like wood. Okay.
But yeah, this is just for the steps.
Well, I don't foresee any issues. It looks good. I mean, it's a solid surface. I mean, you do have to watch with that bluestone. It will get slick if it gets any algae on it. You have a textured brick on it now, so you have to watch that. If it gets any mold or mildew on it, it will get really, really slick.
Do you have an alternative suggestion?
Well, what they can do is they can get a hone stone, what it's called, which is like a chiseled stone on top, so it's not smooth. So it has a texture to the top of it, so it's a little bit more slip resistant.
And it's called homestone?
Honed.
Oh,
That will add a little bit more grit to it, so it doesn't get, so there's something to bite when you walk down the steps. So that's.
okay, thank you.
But besides that, I don't. Unless you guys have any other suggestions, I think you should be good to go.
Yeah, I can. Would you like me? I can reach out to TJ tomorrow if that's what you prefer.
If you don't mind.
No. Yeah, I'll give TJ a call tomorrow and just let him know what we discussed this evening. So that way he's in the loop.
Okay.
Good.
Last on the agenda this evening, we have presentation of Maryland 250 Adrian Smith of the Gatehouse Museum.
I can run the slideshow for you if you'd like.
Yeah. So,
And everyone here is welcome to stick around for Adrian's presentation if you'd like, but it is certainly not required.
So I gave a little bit longer presentation last week to our town council about what the Maryland 250 is, and I will recap some of that. Again, for anybody watching at home, the QR code on this links to the Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area's landing page that links to a lot of links having to do with all different areas, celebrations of the 250th anniversary of 1776. So again, even though that link is to a Civil War focused site, this celebration is about 1776 and everything having to do with that. But what I'm presenting to you tonight has mostly to do with some suggestions of how this would relate directly to our historic district and some of the things other municipalities nearby are doing that you could take advantage of some of the resources within this program. So if you would, Kevin. So here in Sykesville, Joe and I, like the town manager, came up with this statement that the town of Sykesville will work alongside our community partners in the promotion and celebration of the last 250 years of growth and transformation, honor our shared history, and foster a sense of belonging that reflects our pursuit to be an inclusive and welcoming place for all. This is very similar to a lot of the other groups in the area, and we had some other specific things that have to do with this. In particular, the themes that we've chosen to go along with this are the sense of place, and a lot of that has to do with the things that the town has been doing in its planning of different streetscapes, and also what you guys have been doing here with the historic district to keep our historic town looking like it does. So again, the Power of Place theming is part of the American Association of State and Local History. So they are not telling anybody what to do, but they're producing a lot of guidelines for these sorts of programs. And they're also helping to gather other resources. So they're another really great place to look for other grants and projects that are related to these streetscape programs. But again, that Heart of the Civil War Heritage is really the best local resources, the best Maryland, whereas the American Association of State and Local History is very much nationally based. So again, I talked a lot more about this out of the other presentation, so I'm not going to go on this forever, Kevin. And again, we've been working mostly about creating awareness of what this program is and what the Power of Place means, and having other people get involved with this future celebration. We've been working together with other municipalities, as well as I've been working very hand in hand with a lot of the people up in Westminster to work together on upcoming programs. And part of that has tied into talking to people one-on-one on what different municipalities are doing, especially here in Westminster. The state guidance really wants to make sure that this isn't just a parade sort of thing. They're really big on the idea of action and especially permanent ongoing change. And so this really ties into our historic district because it's things like you guys just revised your guidelines. So how do we keep those standards in place? How do we keep them going to keep our historic district meaningful? And what does it mean to have a meaningful building? For example, it's not just that it's an old building, but that in the future, our newer buildings that are coming into shape, what makes them significant? What makes them important to us, our history, and how do we make them fit into what we have and fit into our sense of place? So yeah, the county levels has their initiative called Carroll Voices America 250. Theirs is a little bit different than ours. I encourage you to attend the upcoming March 12th meeting at the Eldersburg Library that will tell them more, or this area more specifically, how the county intends to incorporate a lot of these America 250 themes, how they plan to celebrate the semi-sesquicentennial, that 250th anniversary. I haven't heard much about this yet. I do have a meeting tomorrow, though, with Laura Bankert, who's the head of the Historical Society's Outreach Committee and Events Committee, to try to figure out what that's going to mean and what that meeting is going to entail specifically. No, I can't remember if there's another one. Go ahead, Kevin. So what I wanted to talk about specifically are these funding projects for signage. And so I talked to Carrie here at the town offices about this in particular. Most of the municipalities in this area, like Tawnytown and Westminster, and also some others such as Hagerstown and Frederick, are taking this opportunity and the funding that goes along with it to incorporate the historic district visually in new signage that says you're now entering the historic district. And while we do have those in a couple places in town, they haven't been redone in a long time. There's some problems with the ones that are up. As you know, I chose not to take pictures. At the museum, from the museum perspective, when we get visitors from out of town, there's not very many easy visual clues as to when you're in the historic district and when you're not, and when you're in the town and when you're not. And so especially when we have our, sign-in book, it says, where are you coming from? People will write Sykesville, but they mean they're in Winfield, or they're in Eldersburg, or they're even as far as almost Owings Mills sometimes. And so having a more definitive visual guideline for you're entering this, you're exiting this, that sort of thing, would help create that sense of place that we're looking at in our theming, and that it's something that very specifically there is funding for. Now, some of the Maryland 250 grant applications that are on there, so you can see the one that I took a screenshot of in one of the meetings, that deadline has already expired, but it will renew next year. And that one is through the Chesapeake Gateways grant. Some of the funding from the state level is specific to areas that are older than 1801, which we don't qualify for. But there are others that are available that are for anybody. And especially for historic districts and municipalities, they're really encouraging that. So Westminster specifically, Christy McMasters is in charge of, I believe the DAR is what she's also associated with up there. But she is working with getting their signage to be color coded. So every street that's within their historic district will all have a different color scheme on the street signs. And they're implementing that by keeping track of the regular rotation of the signage as it's meant to be replaced anyway, and just planning to do that on a rolling basis moving forward, that those will be different than the ones that are not in the historic district. But I think also our well-intentioned old signs for welcome to the historic district should definitely have a look taken at them as well. So the Christy McMasters information, her email address is USA250th at Westminster, Maryland, and it's written md.gov. And so I had talked to her at some of these workshops as well, and she said she'd be happy to talk to us about what they've implemented so far. I know that Hagerstown is also doing a very similar project, and so is Tawnytown. And so I would encourage you to reach out to them to see if they are further along in this process and perhaps have their own drawings and ideas on what kinds of ways that would work in our kinds of communities. So some other things that are working around in this type of funding scenario are also looking at things like Jason Laria, the Historical Society of Carroll County, in July set up a formal resolution went along with the county's resolution for realigning a lot of guidelines with the America 250. You of course just redid your whole guidelines for the historic district. And so that's something to keep in mind moving forward, though, is I really encourage you with our current theming to think about those future plans and whether those guidelines like colors, if that's what you want to go for, are something that you include moving forward if that's what you feel is important. So including the Historic District Roundtable of information as far as presenting is a really good idea in the moving forward with the county. So Jason Laurie, as I said, is trying to work with the county to make some sort of cumulative event. And we're hoping that at that, which is planned to be, I believe, next summer of 2026, at the community college, having historic districts all come together to meet there and discuss as, again, municipalities within Carroll County, for you all to talk together about ways that you're using your historic district to make a difference in the communities. So I'll keep you updated on what's going to be going on in here. But for now, that's the short version. Again, I encourage you to listen to last week's presentation to council, which had a lot more information about what kinds of other things that this holds. You can feel free to email me at the gatehouse or come by anytime we're open. So did you have any questions about those things?
Is that larger presentation online?
Yep, it's on YouTube as well as on the town website.
Yeah, the town and town's Facebook page as well.
Yeah.
A town council meeting.
It's a lot of acronyms.
Were you the first one, or were you after the business?
I was the first one.
First presentation. So it's probably about 10 minutes into the meeting.
Yeah, something like that. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, anything else to discuss?
Nothing officially, but I did want to let you guys know. So the folks next door at the AOHAL insurance business, they reached out to us to let us know they're going to be redoing their big planter thing in the front, that big square thing. I went through the guidelines. I couldn't really find anything that we had that would really allow us to, regulate that planter. But essentially the plans say that they're gonna reuse the existing bricks and just, make it nicer, cause it's sort of falling apart.
What about, up Springfield, on the right-hand side where the ramp is, there was two big pillars that the construction crews ripped down, and I believe they were probably historic pillars. Brian and I talked about that.
Oh, what used to be like a driveway, I guess. Yeah. So, what it turned. Yeah. So I don't know. I know that area is state right of way. So those pillars were in the state right of way, which allowed them to take it down. In terms of asking them to put that back, I'd have to talk among staff to see.
Is there any photos of it?
I'm sure we could find some. If we go to Google Maps.
So while he's picking it up, the 4th Wednesday of December is Christmas Day. So I don't know if we planning on.
That was the other thing. So next month's meeting is also a week early. So I will again do my best to send a few reminders about that. So this is what you're talking about here.
Right.
Oh, they're small.
So they took these two out. This piece is still there.
What is it's like a sidewalk they put in there?
Right here. I think they're just replacing this cracked piece of concrete. I'm not sure why they felt like they needed to put that back, because there's no sidewalk on that side, and they're not going to install a sidewalk over there. I think it was just, like you said, a matter of kind of replacing what was existing before.
I was staring at that today, and I thought, well, it can't be an entrance to the driveway because the posts are
Yeah, I
pretty
noticed
permanent
that.
at both the bottom and the top.
Too. But yeah, the plans don't have any plans for sidewalks on this side, so I think it's just putting back that piece of concrete that's there. But yeah, and thank you, Al, for mentioning that, because I did want to mention that as well. But yeah, next month is also a week early, so.
Yeah, I'm putting it on my calendar right
Yeah.
now as we speak.
So like I said, I'll send a couple reminders leading up to that. But other than that, that's all I got.
Okay. That's it. We don't have to motion to adjourn, do we? There's not enough.
No, I mean, there's no quorum, so we can still bang the gavel to end the meeting.
No vote.
No vote.
No vote. That's disappointing.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. So, I had talked to Joe before about striping down there for like the crosswalks and stuff.